Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our meeting this evening, May 18th. We're getting closer and closer. Hard to believe. Justin, can you please call attendance? Where's Justin? Oh, hi.
Hey.
I don't.
I know.
She keeps moving.
Yeah.
I'm not used to that.
I'm the mediator here between these two.
Oh,
Joe Abdella.
Here.
Victoria Ceylon.
Here.
Stephanie Kolnick. Jesse Liebman. Angela Maciulo.
Here.
Alex McNaughton.
Here.
Justin Ongley here. Jen Pody.
Here.
Jane Sargent. Pete Tagley. Mary Weber. And Christine Weidig.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to public comment on agenda items only. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment? Step up to the podium. No one? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Did everybody take a look at the consent agenda, Alex?
After missing police the last,
Oh, no.
I really gave it.
I bet you did. I
found nothing wrong with it.
Oh, good. Anybody else? No? Good. I'm glad. I was a little surprised too, Alex. I'm not gonna lie. It's okay. Okay, so moving on, since there's no changes. The presentation for Spark, we have Paula, yes, and Abby. I'm sorry, Emma. Sorry, Emma. Sorry, Emma. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Paula Conway. For those who don't know me, president of Spark, which is our prevention council. Came here a few months ago. I think Mike Croft was with me to get permission to conduct the developmental relationship survey for our students. And so now we're here to present the results. This is Emma Hollis. She's with our Western Connecticut Coalition, and she's going to talk about that for a second.
Great, thank you. You can advance the slides, thank you. So just a reminder for those of you that don't know me or the Regional Behavioral Health Action Organization, which I assume many of you don't. I'm Emma Johnson Hollis. I'm a mom here for a couple students of Chippewa, and I'm also one of the behavioral health directors of Western Connecticut Coalition. This is our mission, and we also really work hard to promote wellness through behavioral change in our communities. So I have the privilege working here in the community that I live. And just a reminder really quickly, we got this survey approved right before COVID, right? And then we got the first iteration of the survey 2 years ago. So that was our baseline. And now we're moving into our second iteration of this data. So we're very excited to keep moving with it.
As I mentioned, we are formerly the Prevention Council of Bridgewater, Roxbury, Washington. Our mission is to promote self-advocacy, resilience, and connection in order to improve mental health, reduce substance misuse, and enhance the quality of lives of those who live and learn and work in our towns. So Emma's a master at the data, so she's gonna explain the survey a little bit more in more detail and go over the results of the survey.
Okay, thanks. For those of you that are not survey people, just bear with me. So really, again, we started at a baseline in 2024. We're here reviewing what has changed, what hasn't changed, and what do we hope will change. We use the Search Institute's developmental relationships instrument. We'll find out a little bit more about that in the next slide. I'm going to be very transparent with everybody. It's a little jargony, so just bear with me and we'll talk about it in plain terms as much as possible. And really what's most important here is we're taking a look at developmental relationships. And they're defined as close connections through which young people discover who they are, build agency, and learn how to engage and contribute to the world around them. And the truth is, we know that relationships are really the basis of forming us as people, and they have long-term thriving health indicators down the road. Oh, and one last thing, and this was just advantageous. We did add a new component called the Sparks, which I thought was really interesting. So we'll talk about it a little more. It's more it's more geared to what individuals in the school are interested in. So here's a quick snapshot. I will not bore you with this, but here are the 5 key elements of the developmental relationship survey. They explore a lot of different facets, and really what it comes down to is through this instrument, the 5 key elements are really the recipe for success and successful relationships for our young people's lives, and truthfully, everybody's lives. Okay, so let's take a look. What's it look like? Go ahead. Okay, so we are scoring really high on SEL. This was not a surprise to me as a parent of some students here. And it is not dissimilar to what we had last time. What's really important here is the fact that we have moved the margins from moderate to strong self-identity in social emotional learning. So we really like that. With it being said, these are teenagers, so they're self-reporting. And they do have elements within the report that share, hey, there are still areas that we want to work on and we want to grow through our tenure here. And this is all through Cassell's social emotional learning competencies. To no surprise to anybody, the next largest takeaway was the challenge growth. So here are some snippets. What does it mean to challenge growth here at Chapag? Our educators expect us to live up to our full potential, right? They push us to go farther. They insist that we take responsibility for our actions and help us learn from our mistakes. When I think about Chapag, this is the caliber of work that I experience with my young children, well, my middle school and high school children, not so young. But as a culture, I see this as well. So it's really nice to see that reflected in the data. Here's some highlights through changes. So like I said before, social emotional competencies, while they are high, they've actually improved since the last iteration of this report. And so did our students' identification of strong developmental relationships. So, and you will have this data available to you after this meeting. What we see is this shift between moderate, where the overwhelming majority of students identified moderate developmental relationships, we had a pretty decent increase to strong. And that conversely, the moderate section shrunk. So that's exactly what we want to see. Do you want to take over?
So this, I believe, was also similar to the survey from 2 years ago. In terms of an area of focus, it's continued to expand possibilities for our students. So ways inspire me to see possibilities, expose me to new ideas, introduce me to people who can help me grow. So it improved from the last time, but it's still an area that we can do more on. And so it kind of ties into our greatest area of concern, which is that 19% of students report experience of bias and or discrimination from peers and or adults. So again, like that number's down, which is good, but there's still room for improvement. And I think the last time we came here, we talked about, when you look at our population, it's pretty homogenous, right? And as a student who may not be white, may not be straight, may come from, a 2 household family. We just have to be mindful of those minority students. Making sure that we are bringing in different voices and we are giving students different experiences. Because our world and our children here are kind of in a little bubble, which is great in a lot of ways. But the world is so much bigger, and we want to make sure that they can experience some of that, and know that there's more out there than what's here in this little building.
Full transparency, this slide is not very lovely to look at, but it is really just those 4 core measures of substance misuse within our student population. Really what this is saying is that most of our students don't use drugs. Our alcohol use total sample from last time has nearly halved, which is good stuff. The caveat is always this is a very small sample size, so halving that number can be very easy. With that being said, what we are seeing is a downward trend in substance misuse across the board. And then those that have stayed the same, cannabis has generally stayed the same. And believe it or not, I think vaping has increased slightly.
So this was the new measure that we added, which is Sparks, and it measures, what interests and values our students have. And I think, especially since an area of weakness was expanding opportunities, possibilities. Well, what do our students what are they interested? What do they want to learn more about? So 66% of our student population reported sports and being physically active was important to them. 57% reported nature and being outdoors, 39% creative activities, and then you can read on. And I think when you think about Chippewa, that kind of reflects what our student population is, right? Like we have a pretty strong sports program. We have the agri-science program now, which, for our nature and outdoors students. And then our drama and music is important to a lot of students as well. So this kind of just confirms, I think, what we already know about a lot of our students. So based on those things, like our recommendations would be to create student focus groups. How can we tap into those sparks and bring those into everyday learning? How can we strengthen peer culture, belonging, and response when someone experiences bias or discrimination? And then lastly, generating opportunities for students. The other thing I would add is I would also love to see the administration check into our teachers' sparks, because I think that a lot of time is missed. And I think when you have a teacher who is motivated, with something that's important to them, that translates in the classroom. So I think, finding what people are passionate about and then bringing that into the classroom. And so a couple examples that I've just seen recently, and I see Marianne Marr over there. And, one of her classes, and I think it's an AP class, like she does a lot of the, going down to the elementary school kids, doing some creative things with that, and it's all math related. But that's a really cool way. It's a real life experience versus like, what I remember a lot of math sitting behind a desk with a calculator. Obviously our ag program, we're really fortunate to have that where kids constantly are getting hands-on experiences. The Steep Rock project in 6th grade, I think is wonderful. So activities like that that we can, again, generate some passion in our students and our teachers. And I think the ask also for our teachers would be like, what do you need? What resources do you need to help you do this? What are your big asks? What would you love to do with your class that you feel constrained, that whether it's financially, you know, whatever, that you haven't been able to do that you would like to do? So I think those are things that we would love to see the administration and board, you know, encourage our teachers to do and students.
And I'm going to end on this. We're going to end on this. Outside of the recommendations that Spark would like to see embraced, as Western Connecticut Coalition in partnership with Spark, we also recommend engaging in HOPE, healthy outcomes from positive experiences. It is a training through Tufts Medical, and it really gets into how do we intentionally shape the experiences our young people are having to really promote those long-term health benefits. And when I say health, it's not just physical, right? That's emotional, that's spiritual, that's workplace health, financial health, and the like. So this is an incredibly potent program that kind of flips the script on adverse childhood experiences and helps us create a framework where we get into positive childhood experiences and how that really benefits our entire community.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really helpful, and I'm glad that you guys came back to sort of tie at the end what you shared with us at the beginning of the year. Just to tie in a little bit, Paula, about what you were talking about with asking the teachers, maybe a little, can you just, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just some examples of maybe, or just of maybe what other schools have done, just to give a picture or a vision of what, just so it helps me to see what you're thinking.
So I
Kind
hope
of.
my husband doesn't get mad at me, but I'm going to bring him up as an example.
Yeah.
He would love to bring some of his kids to Steep Rock as a physical activity.
See
to
what-
Steep Rock
Deep Rock.
as a physical activity, you know, for
Yeah.
different physical activities. And it's hard to get transportation, and we all know how expensive transportation is.
Got it.
So that's a road. That's a
Yeah.
right. Like I can't do this because of this funding.
Yeah.
Right? So things like that. I
Yep.
think that we have just within the state of Connecticut, there's a lot of great museums that are actually for free, a lot of different activities that are inexpensive, but transportation many times is a block to that. And then the same thing for like our elementary schools, you know, enrichment is again, like bringing things in, which I think Chippewa has done a good job at bringing different speakers in and all that kind of stuff. Could we do more? I think always.
Yeah.
But usually it's a cost
Yep.
thing, right? So that's where I would love to see at some point, you know, again, with maybe it's every department, like, hey, do we have, like, is there like a big ask that we have? Not, you know, in terms of programming, like this is what we would love to do.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like the world's, you know, no limit. And then maybe something that's moderate and like, can we incorporate any of this into our classrooms?
Yeah.
Maybe it's collaborating with other departments,
Mhm.
you know, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Can I say, and that does resonate with us, Paula, and I'm happy to tell you, mostly pushing on an open door because we're trying to move in that direction. And we've had a multi-year project that will continue into next year called Leaders of Their Own Learning with a fellow named Ron Berger. Emily, you're shaking your head. And he operates on the principle, simple but powerful, that engagement is somehow about tied to choice and control. And when people have some choice in what they're studying and they can do it in a way that's project-based and applicable beyond the walls of the school, that you get more inspiration and passion. And we have a lot more to do, but we do buy into that philosophy. And then I had a question, if I could. The slide you had about teen use of controlled substances. It's really interesting because we know it's a problem, but the percentages self-reported are relatively low there, happily. And I remember a marketing campaign. It's old. It's probably 10 or 15 years old now, although for all I know, you two created it. But there were these posters that you put around school because I think kids are buffeted by the idea that it's peer pressure that controls them and they have to do this if they want to be cool or in the in crowd. And these posters said, oh, I guess I have to do these things because everybody else is doing them and I won't be cool if I don't. And then at the bottom it said, probably not. And then it gave the statistics like you just gave about how prevalent or not it really is. I wonder if there's so much we could do with what you presented, but that one just hooked me because I think about that a lot, whether we can say to kids, guess what? Here's what we're seeing in terms of what's happening. And the number is low for a good reason because it's not healthy.
Emma's always good at whenever we look at the data and always saying, more kids than not are not doing drugs, right? Or drinking or whatever. And it's going to the peer pressure. When you talk to a child, it's most of your friends are not doing this, you know? So I think it's that reverse peer pressure or what it's called. But I think stressing that it's not everyone is doing it. It may feel like that, but it's really not. It's the majority of your classmates are not using drugs or not, drinking alcohol. So.
And if you do end up looking back in the data, it says a part of that priority ranking matrix includes, do your peers disapprove of you using alcohol or vaping? And resoundingly across the board, it is generally yes to some degree. We do see it, developmentally, it makes sense for going towards 12th grade. Some of that shifts. But when we take a look at the self-reported percentage of use, which is cleaned, and the bogus surveys are taken out, so it's pretty accurate. And then the gap of that perception, that's where the change happens, because we especially as adults cannot keep saying things like, "Oh, they're all vaping." Well, the truth is, they're not. So normalizing those conversations is really important. So, thank you.
Don, you just made me think about this, and I'm assuming this probably happens in focus groups with kids if we can get there, but by and large to everybody, do the reports of the findings get like shown to the kids? Like, do they sit down and they get to figure out what happened in the survey that they took?
That is definitely a big ask for us, is to be able to intentionally and age appropriately use the data to kind of springboard a further conversation with our students, so that they can take a look at, well, what does the data say? What do I experience? Can we triangulate that and kind of be a part of that advocacy for leadership?
Yeah, I just think that even that one slide where you showed that certain percentage of kids who feel bias, like if you're kind of reporting that on your own, that may feel a certain way to you, either really big or really small. And I think as a student, I'd be interested to know what the other students are reporting and seeing, or it might be enlightening to go,
Absolutely.
I didn't know there was any bias. And oh my gosh, 19% of the kids think that. Were there any more specifics on that, like bias in relation to any particular type of?
Yeah, so when you get down into the actual data, it talks a lot about demographics, in terms of what type of discrimination is happening through that person's experience, and then also where that discrimination is coming from. So there is a lot more to that. We like to be very intentional with how we share sensitive data like this, as I'm sure everybody on the board understands. So sitting down, I think in more intimate settings and kind of parsing through that and sitting in that tension, it's going to be really important for strategic long-term planning.
Well, I really hope that you're able to find ways to share that information with the students. So we certainly encourage that to happen.
Yeah, let's be in touch on that and make sure that we partner, which you've always been a wonderful partner, both of you. So I want to make sure that I'm equally wonderful.
Yeah,
I can't be as wonderful as you two, but
we debriefed quick last week with Mike and Sylvia. And I think
Great.
they're on board with that.
That
So
would be
hopefully,
wonderful.
over the summer, we're going to take some time and organize and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully in the fall, we can, we'll have a plan for the fall.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions and apologies. I came in late. So if you already covered it, I will catch up with my colleagues. So just tell me you already covered it. So two things. One, do we have any thoughts on how we could get the sample size up? Because obviously, as you acknowledged, it's sort of hard to really understand what that data is telling us when it's so limited. But then the second question I have is, it seems like it's a trend now that young people are drinking less. They're not taking illegal drugs as much as maybe some of the prior generations did. But some of the underlying issues are still the same, right? So self-esteem or lack thereof, and a different kind of peer pressure. So this whole looks maxing thing, or peptides, and all of these other non-FDA regulated things that are really taking off because there are underlying insecurities there, or just this focus on some sort of enhanced performance. And so I'm curious if you're starting to tailor questions that are really, or if there's a way, because I think last time you did the presentation, I asked a question and it seemed like a lot of these were sort of stock questions. You didn't have a lot of flexibility in how you asked them. But I do think that, even if it's feedback for, I forget the organization that sort of puts the survey together, but maybe we need to start asking some different questions to get at those underlying issues.
So I think in regards to the sample, I think we're just a small school. I think I forget the exact number, but I think most of the students did participate. So it just is, we're a small school. So if it does drop by half, it could have been 10 and then it's 5. So like, do you know what I mean? So compared to like a New Milford or Danbury, or, they have 10 times as many kids as we do. So their ability to decrease in percentage is going to be a lot harder just because their sample size is bigger. And then in regards to those other things, yeah, I mean, I think it's a constant, and Emma can answer this better than I can, but like a constant like catch-up game. Because even in terms of like the different drugs and things that are out there, the Zyn, the little pouches are becoming more popular, and that wasn't something that's on there, but it's easy to conceal, but really high like nicotine content, very addictive, but that's not on the survey yet. So it's I think it's a constant like catching up game. I think ultimately, like with our organization, regardless of what the addiction is, whether it's a drug, alcohol, whether it's gambling, whether it is a social media addiction, ultimately addressing the mental health aspect of a person is what is going to help with addiction in general, right? So, and connection is a huge component to that. So that's where I think that all ties in with the Sparks and community and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
And we would love to collect some more data through qualitative and quantitative approaches, right? So this is numbers, but we're not going to get that information about what's happening until we get some focus groups, on the schedule. So yes, it all matters, and the roads all lead to the solution is in, our community and in our relationships with each other.
This question, with regards to, do we have like a schedule set of how many times like the current funding is going to last to do more surveys, or do we have like, a 5-year or whatever rollout at this stage? Now we've done it how many times? Twice, so we can start to build a benchmark as we continue to go forward.
Yeah.
Do you need additional funding for that? Like,
Well,
how long is that currently going to last?
Well, so our funding comes, we get a large chunk from, the Western Connecticut Coalition. We have an opioid grant, which I don't know how long that lasts for, but
yeah. Well, So I'm giggling because a part of my role is the funding. So as of right now, the way that the funding is set is our 3 towns, and every single town in the state of Connecticut, where regardless of where you live, receives a certain amount of funding to do work with prevention. So long as nothing changes federally, that funding will continue. That being said, we are pretty well versed in diversifying to make sure that what we're doing here strategically continues regardless of the funding source.
And I think when we did the survey 2 years ago, and then this time, we think every 2 years is a good amount. It gives time for you and us to implement strategies on improving these things. So our goal is in 2 years to come back here and do this again.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you so much. Anybody else have any questions? Great. Okay. Strategic plan, Teaching Learning Council, Carrie Snowden, and staff.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm here tonight to give you our end of year update on behalf of the Teaching and Learning Council. This is a group that I am very proud to work with. Ben, can you go to the next slide? You'll see all the members of the group. You can see that we have membership, teachers and administrators from across the district at every level and in most of our content areas who come together about twice a month, sometimes in person, sometimes on Zoom, and have taken on several of the goal areas of the strategic plan, especially within powerful learning and also innovation and delivering value. And they are making it happen with teacher voice, through collaboration, being really thoughtful, trying things out, getting feedback, and trying something different. They have done great things in the very short amount of time that we've been together. This is our second year. Almost all the members are exactly the same for the second year. And I value their work so much and really appreciate that they give this time to some really important goals to really help our district move forward. Several of them are here tonight. And so on the next few slides, actually, Ben, one more slide for me. Just want to remind people, these are the 4 goal areas of our strategic plan. And we really, with this council, zoom in on the first one and the last one. So you'll see that on the next few slides. But I asked them to come here tonight so that they could give you an update on the work that they've been doing this year and what next steps might be. So I think we're going to start with subcommittee number 1. We have 4 subcommittees. And Emily Judd is representing that subcommittee. So go ahead, Ben, you can go to that next slide. Great. I think you guys have 2 slides.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. So good evening. So my membership on the committee would be Mike Croft, Linda McMillan, and Monica Burnham and myself. So we were charged with Commitment 1 and Commitment 3 under the priority Powerful Learning. So the Commitment 1 was to establish a deep understanding of teaching and learning committed to engaging students, promoting personalized learning, and supporting high academic achievement. And the deliverable was to create a collegial learning walk to share and support best practices and classroom innovation. So this year, we were able to develop a district-wide protocol for collegial learning walks. We've established a purpose for the learning walks, which is primarily to grow a culture of collaboration around teaching and learning, and also to integrate the best practices from Ron Berger of Leaders of Their Own Learning and some other things that were identified on the survey that teachers took for teaching and learning in 2025. We established a structure and expectations for the learning walk. We identified methods for information gathering as colleagues are doing the learning walk, and guidelines for the collaborative discussion following the learning walk. we took the learning walk and we shared it with the leadership team, and we gained input from the team. We made some adjustments. And then we also obtained the commitment from the leadership team to implement this learning protocol in 2026-27 throughout the district. The next slide will show commitment 3, and commitment 3 really honed in on using student performance data to make informed decisions and modifications regarding instruction. And here the deliverable was to create a framework for mutually agreeable tier 1 instructional strategies by grade level. And so here what we did, and this is preliminary, we started to identify and create a sort of teaching and learning handbook. So we were able to come up with some ideas for the table of contents, and you can see some of these things here. And I think honing in on looking at the curriculum and instruction, leaders of their own learning, which would highlight Ron Berger, and also instruction in English, language arts, math, science, and talking about methodologies there. And then honing in on project-based learning, which is one of those ideas that were highlighted in the survey 2025 that we did, and so forth. And so our next steps we're hoping to do is import information and actually develop the content. So that's our goal for next year. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Emily,
Oh,
I
yes.
have a question. So when you say import information, is it just taking the actual student data and matching it against this TOC?
It could be, but I think like say, for example, vision of a learner, like that information is already accessible in the district. We want to take that information and now put it in this handbook.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that's kind of importing things that we already have knowledge and information about, and then obviously researching and shoring up areas that we don't.
Okay, so this is the outline. You're going to
Yes.
take all of the content you already have and then fill in the gaps.
Exactly, and then
Got it.
add to it.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Right, great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Carrie.
I think we're envisioning that this kind of guidebook would be invaluable to a new teacher coming into our district, but then also help all of us be on the same page about expectations around instruction and resources. All right, we're going to move on to subcommittee number 2, who is focused in on vision of a learner, and we have Mark Peters and Kate Eddy here to talk about their work.
Good evening, everyone. Also on subcommittee number 2 are Dawn Shell, Sylvia Olette, Beth Hosking from the elementary school, Washington Primary, and Logan Messina, who is in our middle school. He teaches one high school class, but he's kind of our middle school representative on the committee. Okay. So this year, our committee is focused on developing a vision, the vision of a learner. And this is district-wide, obviously. It starts with kindergarten and goes all the way through 12th grade. Last year, we worked on developing what we are calling the learner competency categories. And by the end of the year, we had 4. And this year, we started the year by clarifying and refining those and also adding a 5th. So the 4 that we had at the end of the year last year were engages in creative processes, acts with courage and character, solves problems ethically, and communicates with reason and empathy. And at the high school level, about 15 years ago, the last time that we were preparing for NEASC, we developed the guiding principles and our core values and common core values and guiding beliefs. And these 4 are really kind of similar to those, except they actually expanded a little bit more. So we had engage in the creative process, which we still have now. Acts with courage and character, I think, is kind of building on and developing more the idea of answering a call to citizenship. Solves problems ethically. We had solves problems, and we've added the ethically. And communicates with reason and empathy is comparable to defending conclusions and judgments. And then it was decided that we should add a 5th one, that develops positive relationships with self and others. So the next step was to develop some kind of rubric for measuring these competencies. And so the first thing that we did was we analyzed neighboring comparable districts' rubrics in order to see how they laid it out, how they organized the rubric, and even defined those competencies that they had, and many of which are very similar to ours. And then we created a collaborative template for staff to contribute words and phrases that would define each competency so that we could have everyone's input, which we felt was particularly important since this is district-wide and we wanted to hear from the primary teachers and of course, all the way up because, in order to capture every student's level of development. We facilitated a professional development session in which all Region 12 faculty and staff were able to provide input describing learner behaviors for each of these competencies. And we've been reviewing the faculty and staff feedback. And we're working now on consolidating it into a rubric, which several of us are going to be trying to refine over the summer. So that we start the beginning of the year with something to offer to the faculty and staff again for them to put kind of a final say on. And then we've also been having Linda McMillan's graphic design class work on a graphic. This is just kind of holding a placeholder for us here right now. We wanted this to be something that comes from the students themselves. And so that's part of our goal next year is that we'll have the finalized graphic. We'll have our grade level band rubrics for each of these competencies. And we hope to, on the November Professional Development Day, start to have faculty and staff work on how they will present this to students and align assessments in their classrooms with the meeting the competencies. Thank you. So, sorry. Any questions?
No. I love the idea of having the students participate by making the graphic. I think that's really wonderful. It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you so much.
Just want to say that you may have heard this referred to as a portrait of a graduate in other places. That's another term. We specifically chose vision of a learner because we want to focus on developing learners,
Yeah.
lifelong learners that go from preschool all the way through 12th grade. So that was a specific word choice on our part.
I
All right.
also want to
Oh,
just
sorry.
say that I appreciate that they're going to be working on this over the summer.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a big job. They got a lot of input on that PD day, and sifting through it and trying to really synthesize it is a big job.
Go ahead.
So I know this is part of our NEASC accreditation that we have to do
Mhm.
every now and again, like it used to be portrait of a graduate, now vision of a learner. And I love how the staff gets involved in this because it really is kind of our own ownership of how we want to kind of disseminate information to kids and how they participate in it. But on the flip side, how do kids participate in knowing that these are kind of their core competencies that they're working on? And I know we talk about it in the classrooms and it used to be on posters kind of up in the library and elsewhere. But I'd love to see how the kids engage in it. I mean, it's great to have them involved in the design of
Mhm.
the logo, but how they see themselves participating in each one of those core competencies. And then how we also communicate that to parents and letting them know from even an elementary school level, because those seem pretty high level competencies. How do we distill that down and simplify it for an elementary age kid and say, this is really what we're building and it starts at a young age. And this is kind of that red line that we see through.
I think you just described exactly what we're working on next year. That's embedding some of this into the curriculum. Where does it already exist? Where are we already developing these skills and dispositions? Where are students already having opportunities to display these skills and dispositions? And then where do we need to add more?
And not just at the high level, but even not
Correct.
bird's level view, but how kids can really use those as touchstones as well. That when I'm
Correct.
doing this assignment, I'm really, maybe not acting with courage or, I don't know, solving problems ethically. Like, not just as a lesson as part of the curriculum, but how is it applicable? Like, those are just, they're kind of heady ideas, and how does that become applicable in like an everyday life? And
Yeah, sure. And as the process unfolds, so it seems rather ethereal now, right? And abstract. As you go through it, it becomes more operationalized, more concrete. I mean, even in the committee that Kate and Mark are on and the other folks, they were already starting to talk about the last couple of meetings. Well, what would it look like if kids were doing these things that line up with these descriptors up here? How would we know them? What are the look fors? How would we measure it?
yeah,
How do
does
we,
the
how,
kid
how do,
determine that they've graduated and they fulfill kind of these
So
tenets?
the next step is development of rubrics that actually become a tool to train students. Like any other rubric, the value in it is it helps make clear for students what the target is and how they're going to meet it. So it's, yes, I mean, this is a lot more complicated than a graphic and some philosophical statements. This is the fountain from which the rest of it flows. And then the process as it goes forward is helping students see that knowledge is a seamless web, that all these things are part of every project they're doing in art class, in gym class, and science class. And here's what it looks like when you can do these things. And here's how we're going to help you get there. And part of that, the ulterior, the least soulful part of the reason for that is NEASC wants it. But the most soulful part is we think it's good for kids and we're doing it anyway. Yeah.
That's right. All right, ready for subcommittee 3. It looks like Dylan Stacy and Chris Testani are here representing that subcommittee. They are going to talk to you a little bit about work they're doing in math.
Good evening. As we spoke last year, and we come back again this year, Subcommittee 3 chose to focus on using student performance data to make informed decisions, as well as modifications regarding our instruction. Where we started last year, we began with identifying a core problem within our district that we would like to address. We found across multiple different data points that math in general, with fact fluency as a specific, being an area where we could target to focus on to provide more instructional support to staff to be able to support our learning for our students. Last year, we decided to start by researching different programs. We researched different curriculums. We looked at our own curriculum that we are currently implementing here in Region 12. And we found that there was a lot of pieces that aligned towards our teaching of math fact fluency, but that we would like to support it with a little bit more through ulterior motives. So we found we chose to go with a program called FactsWise. This is a program that has 2 different components that we found, which we really like. This simple, easy to implement, something that is research-based that we found to be critical to our values that we held true. The design is multimodal, so we found that through concrete, pictorial, and abstract approaches, as well as a logical sequence of goals, we can reach all students and all learners at different levels. One of the big standout points that I think appeals to all is the cost effectiveness of this program. No hints there. So we started piloting this in a K in a 5th grade classroom in the spring, and we found some exceptional feedback. We're looking to use that data that we finished up as our reaching out point to transition into our 2nd year of this goal.
Yeah, like Chris was saying, I think something we were really cognizant of was we didn't want to give a complex, sort of difficult to follow curriculum to our classroom teachers and say, okay, we've identified this problem, here's how you're going to solve it. But at the same time, this is now kind of a burden to them. Like, here's a brand new program that might not be easy to follow. FactsWise that we found is very simple. It's designed to be implemented just 5 to 10 minutes a day. And so another issue that we had was trying to find the time in our school day where we're actually going to add this to our schedules. We're going to have to take something out or make our math block a little bit shorter in order to implement this. This is great because it's designed to be daily instruction, but really, really short. So like Chris was saying, it ticked a lot of the boxes. We've gotten really positive feedback. So the next step for next year is piloting this program in multiple classes. So we have teachers that are volunteering to pilot it in K through 5, 1 teacher per grade level. So it'll be interesting to get feedback from all of those teachers, but also to compare perhaps how those students are doing versus the grade level equivalents who are not implementing that program. It'll be interesting to hear what the teachers have to say about if they notice a difference just in not just fact fluency with their students, but also perhaps how that affects just general math knowledge and the progress with their students and how that compares to in years past. One of the other challenges that we've been talking a lot about this year was just how to assess how the students are doing. When we were learning, we did a lot of flashcards, math minutes, and the research suggests these days that that is not the most effective way to have kids practice, but also to assess them. And it really should be more of almost like an interview style, the way we do running records with reading. And of course, that takes time. So right now we've been talking about it, but that will be something that we talk about at the beginning of next year is what's going to be that great balance between something that isn't going to be incredibly time consuming, but is still going to be informative enough. And we feel like, a valuable use of our time to get that data from our students. And then just similarly trying to figure out how exactly and where exactly we're going to implement that within the math block or our daily schedule as a whole. So any questions for us? All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Specifically, this is all elementary focused right now, which is where a lot of fact fluency is developed. So it makes sense that that's a starting point. All right, last subcommittee, number 4. We have all 3 members of subcommittee 4 here, Amy Testani, Ed Belinsky, and Marianne Marr. And they are the subcommittee that dipped into that final pillar, which was innovation and delivering value. And they want to share a little bit about their work.
Hello, I am Amy Testani. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Booth, and the joys of both my husband and I being on the committee. So thank you for enduring the chaos of my kids in the background, all of whom are Region 12 kids coming up. So we have focused on 3 different pieces. Each of us kind of are spearheading, speaking about them. My kind of pet project has been doing a more of a within our district collaboration. We started last year with primary partners. Elementary, 4th and 5th would come up 4 times throughout the year. Last year was science-based. This year is more humanities-based. But we wanted something that was a little bit more personal for the students. So last year, Marianne brought her Math Honor Society students down to each of the 5th grade classrooms. We did a little bit more of just a vague project. Students were given $1 million and had to work with their high school buddy to figure out how to spend that money. Give them more of a concept of how much is $1 million. This year, as we were working and looking at it, we wanted it to be definitely more standards aligned, not only for 5th grade, but also vertically as well. So we worked on creating a project for the students to do. We called it Operation Gridlocked. They had to chart points within a coordinate grid, calculate the distances. The high schoolers used the distance formula to show them how you could calculate it if it's not just on a straight line. And then they had a sudden turbulence that they had to recalculate their navigation plan. And they had a lot of fun collaborating with it. Ben was there taking photos at all 4 of the 5th grade elementary classrooms. And it's a nice opportunity in which the high school comes down to the elementary school. So it's kind of the opposite of primary partners where they get to come up here. And it's also just that smaller, we had like 2, maybe 3 students per high schooler compared to primary partners when they're in groups in like between 15 and 20. So our future goals is we would love to expand this to maybe other subjects or other grade levels. Right now it's 2 years in a row we've done 5th grade to high school seniors. I think you had 1 or 2 juniors in the mix with your Math Honor Society. And some of that too is just out of convenience. Marianne manages the Math Honor Society. I'm a 5th grade teacher, but we'd love to expand to other subjects, other grade levels, whether that be like music, intra-district, even physical education. I could imagine our kids loving to work with some of the high school students. And then another goal that the Math Honor Society has is to host like a family math night for elementary students after hours. Again, very vague idea, a lot of ideas to get flushed out there. But that was the work we did this year. Marianne's next, Ed's next. You're on.
Right. Hello. Our separate task basically stemmed from an old binder that used to be in this school about 2 decades ago. And the binder was basically for our senior project. And it basically was meant to link community members to students to help them develop a project. We took that idea and we want to basically modernize it. We want to digitize it and we want to bring it back into the school system and try to really develop those community relations that we used to have, especially with the staff within the district. So we've been chipping away at this idea and it's been developing over the last year. We've already started kind of developing networks, relationships between schools and the extended community. We basically tried to map out how this data is going to be collected. How are we going to actually bring in community members and keep those relationships? So we've developed a Google Forms and different ways of trying to get this information, figure out what information we actually want from these people, and then how can we integrate that into learning here at Chippewa. This kind of went towards our meeting with the SRO at Chippewa and basically wondering about the vetting process. Obviously, we want our kids to be safe and we don't want to just get anybody off the street. So we really kind of focus, this is more going to be a kind of a resource for teachers, all right? And our idea here is, if our teachers are teaching a subject area and they want to have a professional be a guest speaker, if we want to develop some professional development opportunities, if we want to give some kind of field trip or some other type of, information, maybe like if I know a plumber and I want to bring my kids to go do a plumbing lesson, we'll have a resource there that I can contact. Also bringing in that community aspect. We were also very concerned with doing all the work and developing this and then having it forgotten, or maybe nobody who's gonna keep this list, who's gonna update this list, who's gonna make it, who's gonna keep it updated for the future. And Carrie, she automatically, yes, she volunteered to basically keep this within her department. We're going to come up with some ideas on how to actually send out annual checks with these people to make sure that they want to still be involved with our school system and keep that relationship going over the years. I think we found it's important that these people know, we're not saying we're going to contact you. We just want to know if you want to be a resource that can be contacted. So we want to make sure that if a parent or a professional, someone in the community wants to support our school, they'll have that opportunity. So next year, what we really want to do is determine the best method of sharing this list with our teachers, how to keep it updated, like we just talked about, enable staff to suggest resources and how to add. This kind of is linked to the vetting process, but if any teachers here know of anybody that could be a good resource for our school, how to get them on this list. We talked about the very successful career day that we had here at Chippewa. All those people are going to be great resources to have on this kind of list. And so basically we want to establish this framework next year and then populate this and start the process of getting some community members here so we can utilize it in the school system. Thank you.
Okay. The last part of our goals has to do with interdisciplinary course and learning opportunities. So this has gone on in our school on more of an informal basis. We wanted to try to firm this up a bit. And this came out of a conversation Ed and I were talking about when he was at his last school and how much work that ag had done with other departments. And I had worked with some of the ag teachers relative to math lessons. And I was saying to him, well, we should pull science in based upon his past experience. So I would like to say we've accomplished this year, but what we tried to do is we had a goal of developing lesson opportunities between my department, which is math, ag, Ed's department, and Stephanie Shuck's department of science. But we had quite a few snow days, as you might be aware of. So every time we felt like we scheduled this got changed. So Carrie did say she's going to put this as part of our PD next year when we come in, because we're very excited about doing this and continuing the opportunity. Last year, I had spoken a little bit about math for the trades. It's definitely a course that Ed and I are very interested in looking into to see if we can offer here. We do think students would be interested in this.
more for like the 27-28 school year, but working on the curriculum next year. We did find some of this curriculum and sort of course exists out there, some in colleges, some in high schools, just so we can elaborate that, what we've seen like specific for Chapag, tailor that, and to see what we could do with that and see how many students would be interested. We did do a little survey, and there definitely are students that are interested in that, so that's something we want to pursue next year. Math and Society, we had shown the Counted Out movie, and Mark and Kate and myself, we actually facilitated a session during PD, thanks to Carrie, where we showed the movie to all the staff. And just talking about the Counted Out movie, talking about the importance of math and society, and going into the future, if you're not really proficient in math or have this, I guess, foundational knowledge of it, it's going to be very difficult for careers for students in the future. And I thought, who better to talk about this than the humanities teachers? So we came and did this together, and we want to continue on that with the teachers here. So looking at some sort of class or just incorporation to school-wide curriculum, which I think some teachers have started to do. But, you know, talking about a class, I mean, I was saying it would be a dream if we could co-teach a class with humanities and math. I think the students would love that. So maybe that's a pipe dream, but something like that to offer, I think would be great. The staff, as I said, viewed the movie this year. They're taking into consideration students viewing the movie and seeing what we can talk about. But in the meantime, even if we can come up with either some lessons in classes or courses as a whole, we think that would be a great addition to the current curricular offerings for our students. Any questions for our committee?
No. Thank you, Marianne.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming tonight.
Yeah.
Please
Thanks.
feel free to exit at this point because I know it's been a long day for all of you, but I hope that you can hear in their presentations their passion for what they're working on, how they're really invested in this work, and they're really making our strategic plan come to life in our schools and in our classrooms. And I think that is so critically important because it could be a document that just lives on a shelf and it doesn't. So thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Are you feeling good about that? No more questions about that? Okay.
All
All right. I think I'm up here for just this. This is just a couple slides.
Yeah.
Just want to give you a quick update on our technology self-study committee. Don is on that committee and Jesse is on that committee with me. So they can also, you know, answer questions. These are all the committee members. We've got parents from every school. We've got elementary teachers, secondary teachers. We've got 3 students, a 5th grader, a 7th grader, and a 10th grader. We've got 2 representatives from our technology department. So a wide range of people on this committee. Just that's important for you to know all the voices that entered the conversation. Go ahead, Ben. Here were our goals for this year. And I'll just say originally all 3 of these goals were the goals of this year. And we realized after a meeting or 2 that it was just too much to take on and we needed more time. So the first goal we're just about there. Based on best practice, recommend key ideas to be included in the district's vision for technology use with students. Answering the questions, what is our vision for effective technology use, instructional technology, and what technological skills and attributes do we want to develop in our students? So after we had 4 meetings, 4 2-hour meetings, and we came to a draft set of beliefs and commitments that the admin team is now going to work on and flesh out and make a framework. Next year, our plan is to conduct a self-study where we sort of take a look at what our vision is and what's actually happening and figure out how to get closer to our vision. You know, compare the actual to the vision and see what we can do. And then think about next steps. You know, if we want to improve, if there are improvements that need to be made to get closer to our vision, what are some steps we could take to do that? So that's the work the committee will take on next year. That is it. That's my whole set of slides on this. Does anybody have any, or Jesse or Don, do you want to add to anything? Or does anybody have any questions?
I mean, I'll just say that it's been a really eye-opening set of meetings, and thanks to Carrie for your leadership bringing together such a wide group of people, particularly students and their perspectives, and then parents and a lot of faculty I've never met before. So it's been very informative, and I feel like a really great process this year.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, a healthy process, and the committee, in order to do its job well, it needed to have a range of viewpoints represented, and I think many different viewpoints along the spectrum were represented in the room. A lot of rich discussion, a lot of time dedicated. Carrie did create a great structure, a functional space to deliberate and talk about this, and we were able to just take a look at, what do we believe about how technology can advance or inhibit what we're trying to do with kids, how it can be a tool or an impediment, and how are we going to move in the right direction. And, we've got a lot of work left to do, but I feel good that it's such a thoughtful process. We could cut to the chase and, pull some mission statement out. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to think about this and make it right for Region 12 and for our kids and our parents. So thanks to everybody. Jesse, Carrie gave so many hours to the committee, and I'm looking forward to continuing the work.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on now to reports and recognitions. Board report. I'm really gonna just not say much tonight, just because I know we've had a lot of information this evening, a lot of really wonderful information. So I just want to thank Carrie for bringing a lot of information to us tonight. I really appreciate it, and to our amazing teachers who came this evening to share that with us. I always appreciate when our teachers come on an evening, especially with 4 children in tow. And I know, and I took everything not to go and hold the baby. So I almost did. Anyway, so I just always am so appreciative of that.
All right, thanks. A couple of quick points, and we're getting into that busy part of the year where the news cycle is going to ramp up. So you'll probably see a resurgence of my sometimes annoying Friday updates as we get into the heart of the end of the year here.
It's the best ones.
Okay. And a few things now that are updates are, first of all, we've had a really nice experience with concerts the past several weeks. There's a middle school one coming up, but I was able to attend the elementary concert. It was a packed house. Those kids were making wonderful, wonderful sounds. And I saw the high school concert, same thing. And I always say to the audience, thank you for supporting teaching your kids to play a musical instrument or sing. So those were well attended and really good events. And outside, we had the fine artwork of our students hanging that showed what they could do in the art department as well. So it was really great evenings for the fine and performing arts here. There was a successful plant sale out of the Agri-Science Academy. They raised a lot of money. They had a lot of foot traffic, and Tyler was happy with the level of the sale. And again, our students produced flowers and produce for charity, and worked with Judea Gardens, especially locally, in order to make good things happen, which fits in with our theme, which I don't mean to sound pie in the sky. I mean for it to be grounded. Our theme, Region 12 for a better world, and our teachers and our kids are doing that. The prom is happening this weekend on Sunday at the Heritage Village. The juniors and seniors are excited about that at Chapag. The FFA banquet meeting is Friday evening, so that'll be nice. And the middle school play took place over the weekend. It's the first one I've missed, but I had to be up in Rhode Island. But I heard about it. The interesting thing, we've spent a lot of time this year honoring senior projects, right? This middle school play this year was the senior project of a senior who wrote the play. She aspires to be a playwright. She's been very involved in theater here, musical and dramatic theater, Cadence O'Keefe. And she wrote a play called The Final Bell, in which it's about a school where some money went missing and the kids play detective to try to locate the money. So I missed a good one. And finally, the last few days, K-5 students have been making their annual pilgrimage to Chapag to get tours and learn more about what goes on here and what they can expect when they attend Chapag. So it's a busy time in the schools, and I'll try to keep you current. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer's report.
I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm going to combine the treasurer's report with the F&O report. But I'm going to wait and do everything under the F&O report because we just had an F&O meeting earlier this evening.
Okay. Agri-Science Committee, Mary is not here this evening, so we will pass on that. Curriculum, Justin?
So we just had our meeting earlier tonight. There's a couple of things that I just want to share with you guys. So at our last meeting in April, we had asked Harry Snowden to sort of give us an update on the sequence of classes or the pathways of certain classes. So we spent, or she gave us an overview of what, let's see, Science Department said they are pleased with the way their sequence of course goes with, which seems unusual to a lot of us who, took a earth science, biology, chemistry, physics sequence. We put physics first, but they seem to think that it's working, and the test score data definitely shows that. And on a side note, do you want to add what you were contacted? This is actually kind of cool. So
Just recently, a STEM coordinator from, I believe it was Region 17, another school district in Connecticut, reached out and said, hey, we noticed your scores have really grown. Your NGSS scores have really grown in the last few years, and we want to know, what are you doing over there? So we got on a Zoom, me, Mike Croft, Steph Shuck, who is the department leader for science, and she picked Steph's brain pretty much about the different things that our department is doing that's helping our students' scores grow and grow. And one of them was an introduction to physical science in the freshman year. Really, our science department believes lays the groundwork for better success in chemistry and biology and the other sciences. So it was just a nice little pat on the shoulder, I guess.
We were toying with the idea, this might be cosmetic or semantics, but toying with the idea of actually renaming the course so it doesn't give off the aura. People hear physics and they think something's out of whack here. But intro to physical science is more in line with the actual project of the course, which is more reminiscent of an earth science type thing and seems to scaffold well up to the NGSS test. So plus we told them before that Zoom that we have a $50,000 consultancy fee, which is still pending.
Per hour.
Yeah.
That's great.
So the next department was the humanities department, and Chris Dennis reported that they're pleased with the 9th and 10th grade heterogeneous grouping. And that does kind of change as you get more into the AP, ECE classes in junior and senior year. We also got an update on the honors challenge, which, students undergo a deep year-long research project. Based on what we were told, it seems incredibly rigorous and just teaching excellent research skills and higher order thinking skills for our students. Counseling department, they are going to update their senior survey, which is given through Naviance, and really talk about, what are, to the outgoing high school seniors, what are your post-secondary plans, and then why, why did you choose, going to this school or going into the workforce? So that those data points will be presented in the fall. Then we had spent some, again, in our previous meeting, we talked about math pathways and reviewing data. And we had a robust discussion just basically on how our students are performing on the SAT. We did learn that, and help me if I get the numbers wrong, but perhaps 60% of what Common Core teaches, which is how we develop our curriculum, is on the SAT, which means that 40% of what students are learning may not necessarily be on the SAT. Yes. Yeah. So that was eye-opening for a little bit. Yes. And then finally, something new to report. This is actually really cool. I guess if you want to, Sylvia Ouellette was, and you guys were working on coming up with concentrations, which is essentially, I mean, I guess you can think about it as a major, as you would a major if you were in college. So there's certain pathways. There's an education concentration, healthcare concentration, criminal justice, business and economics, computer science, fine arts, and food science. And underneath that, each one of these pathways has the same kind of structure. You know, you would do a senior project that's geared towards whatever your concentration is. Community service focused on getting kids more experience in one of these particular specifics in the pathways. Coursework being aligned with what you're doing, and possibly trying to find a job that will help, you know, further that passion. And then another cool thing about this is that concentration, you know, your concentration will be noted on a transcript or diploma. So kind of cool. That's it.
I absolutely love that. I love that because I think you'll spark more interest in the students. And I think that you'll get a great response from the students because they'll be studying what they enjoy and they will be more focused. I absolutely love that idea. Absolutely. Excellent. Love it.
Justin, I have a question. So I know it's an ongoing process, but is there a discussion of the intersectionality of some of the pathways? So, you know, and I think I've used this example before, but my older daughter was told, well, you can't do honors physics because you haven't done this math, you know, and so there's certain sort of prerequisites that will start to impact other areas. So I'm just wondering if you are looking at that intersectionality. And
Yeah,
the
it's
second one is just that accelerated math pathway that I think I find every opportunity to talk about.
it's I feel like we kind of opened a can of worms here in a good way. So, you know, the meetings that we have are really just continuations of the previous meeting. So this is something that I foresee us talking about well into next year. And really what I'm hoping is sort of the focus of our work as the committee is to really figure out what's the best way to sequence courses and things like that.
Thank you. At Advance, Joe?
The Ed Advance in-person board meeting on May 7th was held at the Litchfield office, which I attended. We received an updated version of the May budget, and there was some good news as the numbers are a little bit better due to some new grants that they have received. Our slate of officers was discussed and approved, and there are no changes from the current board position. So next year's board is pretty much the same as this one. Also, we approved the executive director's one-year extension to his current contract. That's all.
Thank you, Joe. Alex, back to you.
Thank you. I'm going to speak off of my notes because we just had our meeting. Most of it had to do with projects and monies, whether to spend them or not, or how to spend them. There was a $15,000 transfer for very small line items, $500 here, $1,000 here. Basically, those funds came out of the fact that the health benefits costs went down. So we're moving money from one line item to another. We also discussed the cameras in all the systems. The servers that function with the cameras need to be replaced. Basically, they give you a 5-year window when you buy them. We've had ours for 13 years. They've had some problems with them. We're looking to replace them in both here in Chippewa and in the 3 elementary schools. Completely out of order here, the tuition in and the Sherman contracts, we're thinking it's going to come around $350,000. That money will go back to directly to the towns. So they should be happy to hear that. We're also looking at buying some new bleachers for the fields outside. We have some questions about how they'll be delivered, whether they need to be assembled, who assembles them, et cetera, and we're going to look into that. The before we're going to put together a list of these items, and you'll be able to see them. They'll come in next month's package. I think our next meeting is June 1st, so that you can actually look in advance of, okay, here are the bleachers, here's what they're going to cost, here's where they're going to go, et cetera. We have a 10-year plan, and one of the items that was to come up, well, two of the items are new lockers for the Washington primary and paving from the stop signs down to the road. We're looking at doing those two jobs. And finally, well, not finally, but one of the other things we're looking at, we've always been requested, the elementary schools have requested food, and we've always had an issue about whether we get a kitchen or not. What we're thinking about doing now is having warming cabinets, and then, like the bags that pizza come in, so that the food can be transferred from here down to the elementary schools, and maybe once, twice a week, but would give it an opportunity for the kids to get, give the parents a chance not to have to make lunch for the kids. And finally, we discussed the reserve, the 2% reserve, and what we're going to do with that this year. And that is it. Questions? Yes.
As far as the bags are concerned, for, food transportation or whatever, has anyone consulted the health department to see if
Yes.
that's
Yes.
okay to do?
Yeah.
And everything's fine, they're okay with it?
Yes.
Good.
Now, hopefully, there's a chance that we won't even need the warming ovens if the food, we're not going to make the food here at 8 in the morning and have it sit around for 3 or 4 hours. It's probably going to be made at 11 o'clock, and 11:30, it's on the way. That 45-minute window for lunch, we're going to have to work out some of the who's actually going to be responsible for overseeing the distribution of the food, et cetera. And that somebody will have to get qualified to do that. And who does it, we haven't determined that yet. This is not an expensive proposition. It's probably going to be cost for the warming ovens probably about $8,000.
For the three schools.
The three schools. And the pizza bags, I don't know how much those are, but that should be negligible.
Those are about 8,000 also. I'm kidding.
Thank you. Any other questions?
It's late. No, I think not for me. Anybody else? No. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Labor negotiations, Vicky?
Nothing new to
Nothing.
report.
Okay, thank you. Policy, back to you, Justin.
I'm not sure when our next meeting is. I'm gonna say sometime in June.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Well, either way, we do have underneath old business approval for the second read of policy 5111, admission/placement. That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you. Nothing for me to report since Carrie and her staff did an amazing job tonight. We do have a long-range planning committee meeting on the 15th of June. And that's it. Moving on to old business, to consider for approval a second read of policy 5111.
And this is the policy, again, that would bring us into line with the new state statute to the effect that you have to turn 5 on or before September 1st if you want to enroll in kindergarten for that year. Prior iterations of the statute allowed a process where kids could apply for a waiver and they'd be evaluated by the district. A determination would be made. We've done that for our clientele this one last year. So nobody has the rug pulled out from under them, but we need to bring ourselves in compliance with the statute going forward. So this one, unlike some of the terrible red line things that I've given you that you'd have to read for 3 weeks, basically just takes away all the language that would allow waivers and just says you must be 5 on or before September 1st in order to enroll in kindergarten for that year. That's the amendment to policy 5111 that you're considering.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve for a second read of policy 5111?
I so move.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Abstentions? It passes. Thank you. There's no new business. May I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.